welcome to another Omega Insight. I'm very grateful that you were able to join me this evening. My name is Anne Marie, of course, and tonight the topic that I wanted to touch on is the Four Noble Truths of Buddhism. I'm not going to go into detail. I just want to give an overall perspective and understanding of what the Four Noble Truths are. Now, for anyone who may not know this, Buddhism is actually not a religion. So, contrary to popular belief, it's not a religion. Buddhism is actually a philosophy, a way of being. Therefore, you can sync Buddhism with whatever philosophy, or excuse me, whatever religion that you choose. Anything, it will enhance your practice. So the Four Noble Truths, of course, these are foundation of the Buddhist teachings, and they really do explain the nature of suffering and then how to end the suffering, which of course the final place would be to reach a place of nirvana, excuse me, or enlightenment is what it really comes down to. The first noble truth, this is called the truth of suffering. So the truth of suffering is life is full of suffering. We all know that. It's full of suffering, dissatisfaction. This includes physical and emotional suffering, could be pain. It could be a sense of unfulfillment. It could feel like eh, no motivation, no power, anything. It just is not happy, not content. It's essentially, we could say, a life of uncontentment, if that is a word. Next noble truth is, so first we know the truth of suffering. Life is full of suffering and dissatisfaction. The second truth, the truth is the cause of the suffering. Why do we suffer? What is the causes of it? So we know that life is full of suffering and dissatisfaction, but why? Well, the cause of suffering is cravings or attachment. This can stem from desire. It can stem from ignorance. It could even be a thirst for pleasure or existence. Like, I need to be important. It could be feeding my ego. What is it about my ego? Pay attention to me. All of those things could be the cause of suffering when I don't get what it is that I'm desiring. How we end suffering, number three, the truth for ending suffering is by letting go of attachment and desire. Easier said than done. So letting go of attachment and desire. I think they have the phrase no phone, fear of not having my phone, phobia, fear of not having my phone by me. That could be considered an attachment. So if order for me to end my suffering, I would have to relinquish my phone, which I'm not ready to do. So even though it sounds easy, it's not. The path, number three, is the hardest thing that we do. It's letting go of the attachment and the desires. It's a sense of liberation. When we finally free ourselves of our attachments and desires, we can reach that state of nirvana. And the fourth noble truth, the path to end, it's the path to the end of suffering. So how do I end suffering, and then what do I do? So the path of suffering is really, it's an eightfold path, which I'm not going to go into it, but it's the guide to ethical conduct, mental discipline, and wisdom. It includes right understanding, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So these are the path to it. That's the path to it. So there's the Four Noble Truths, and then the last path is 8 unfolding path of what we can do to get to it. Now, I know that sounds very wonderful, very philosophical, but let's put it into a practical application, a meat and potatoes. What do we do? So if I could just summarize in one sentence, the truth of suffering, you feel disappointed because you didn't get the job, or you didn't get it. Let's go with the idea of, let's say you want to get a phone, you want to buy a brand new phone, since I mentioned my phone. So the truth of suffering, number one, the truth of suffering would be, you initially feel excited about your new phone, but over time the excitement fades and now you're left unsatisfied. So after a year, oh, I want the new thing. Oh, I want the new thing, the new blinging and whistles and bells. And we always have to get the new version. So I'm saying that, but it's funny because I have actually an iPhone 8. So I don't have the newest and greatest things, but that's the idea. So the truth of the suffering is that initially I'm very excited. I've got my new phone, but over time and as other elements start progress and there's new phones and new models coming out, I'm left discontented. I'm unsatisfied. Oh, my phone doesn't take as nice pictures as somebody else's phone takes, or etc. Number two, the truth of the cause of suffering. So my suffering is because I'm craving for the latest and greatest technology, and the belief that the latest, greatest technology, a new phone, that's what's going to bring me happiness. That's what I really need. The new one, that's going to finally bring me the lasting happiness that I'm looking for, which really is an illusion. The number three, the third noble truth, the truth to end the suffering. So you find peace by letting go of the expectation that the phone will provide me long-term satisfaction, and accepting that true happiness comes from within. So it's acknowledging, no, this isn't really going to bring me eternal happiness. Happiness actually is product within. We all know that. Obviously, we know that. So number four, the truth for the path to end of all sufferings, I would practice mindfulness and contentment. Being content that I have my phone, being content and appreciation for the fact that I have the phone, that it does what I want it to do without being attached to it. And that would then therefore lead to reducing my dissatisfaction. Again, it's a nice philosophy. And this is why it's called a path. Buddhism is the path because it doesn't just happen overnight. There are things that I have to do to be mindful of it, to continue releasing my attachments. And I'm just using a phone as an illustration. There's other things that I can use. There's my dog. I could be attached to my dog. So we could be attached to people, places, things, materialistic things. If you know the story of Buddha, you understand that Buddha sought to release his attachment from everything. And he gave up wealth and took on the path of, I don't remember the name, but he took on the path of somebody who's seeking enlightenment. So he wore a simple robe and he had a beggar's bowl, and he went without anything, as much as he could without anything, to reach a state of nirvana. So obviously I'm not suggesting that we need things in today's day and age, but I still can practice the Four Noble Truths of recognizing that I'm suffering, and I'm suffering because of my own thoughts, my own attachments, and things that I'm dissatisfied with. I suffer when I compare myself to other people. I suffer when I judge other people. That's considered suffering as well. So the actual essence of the noble path would be the eight unfolding paths that I mentioned to you before, where it came to, if I understood, it would be includes right understanding. So I would meditate and contemplate on the right understanding, my intention. Now they say right as if it's the correct way, but what it means is the unattached way. So I have to practice understanding, the pull back and have an understanding. Why am I attached to this phone? What is my intention? Having the right, the clear, the pure intention, having pure, clear speech, having pure, clear action, livelihood. Am I living my life in integrity, in accordance to my philosophy? Am I putting forth the correct effort, or the amount of effort that is required? Am I practicing mindfulness? Am I aware of the things that I say and the things that I do? And then, of course, concentration. That's the last thing. Anybody practice meditation, you know concentration is above all one of the hardest things to do, to maintain that concentration effort. So that concludes everything that, as I said, I just wanted to do a very brief overview of the Four Noble Truths to introduce you to Buddhism, for those of you who don't know anything about Buddhism. And please, I am not an expert. That's why I wanted to just go on an overview of the Four Noble Truths. And again, that's why I mentioned last week about the book that I was reading, the current book in the Introduction to Buddhism. I think it's a fascinating topic and subject. And as we all know, I love meditation. So I feel in alignment with the Buddhist way of living. So thank you for joining me this evening. I truly appreciate it. I want to remind you again that we do have an Omega 1 coming up. in November. It's November 22nd to the 24th. You're more than welcome to register for that. Just go to the website, www.omegavector.org, and you can register from there. I appreciate you joining me this evening. I'm looking forward to seeing you the next time around. So have a wonderful evening. Bye now.